Trump's first term in office might seem like a lifetime ago in our breakneck political landscape, but even if that era is now a bit hazy, you probably remember his travel ban. Affecting mostly Muslim majority countries and requiring several revisions, the travel ban, like the border wall, remains one of the more memorable actions of his first term. Now, with the grim inevitability of a Hollywood sequel, the travel ban is back. Welcome to the Politics of New America. I'm Nathan Stone. On this weekly brief, I'm going to take you through Trump's new travel ban, compare it to the first one, tell you who's affected and who's not, and what we should be on the lookout for going forward. Let's start with a quick refresher on Trump's first travel ban. This was imposed with Executive Order 13769, issued on January 27, 2017. Now, if you're ever curious about the numbering of executive orders, it's actually very simple. They started with 1, and they counted up. So 13769 was the 13,769 executive order issued by a president of the United States. So a little bit of a fun fact there. Now, this first ban was known as the Muslim ban by Trump, by his allies, and also by his critics. It all starts January 27th, 2017, with the executive order entitled Protecting the Nation from a Foreign Terrorist Entry into the United States. So this was a ban for people from 7 majority Muslim countries: Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, for 90 days, with a few exceptions. It also suspended refugee resettlement for 120 days and banned Syrian refugees just indefinitely, and lowered the overall cap for refugee admissions for 2017 from 110,000 to 50,000. Now, this first travel ban, you might not remember, but actually got quashed by the courts, and the administration declined to defend it. So it was replaced, after it got thrown out, by Executive Order 13780 on March 6, 2017. This revised travel ban both rescinded the original ban, but was kind of a direct successor. Same ban, except minus Iraq, and it did exempt those who already had green cards. Also suspended refugee resettlement for 120 days, lowered the cap, again for refugee admissions, from 110,000 to 50,000. So a lot of it kind of went through the second time. Then it actually got a third revision through a presidential proclamation. Now, this one was additive. So they added Venezuela, North Korea, and the same Muslim countries again, removing Sudan, however, and adding Chad. And then finally, in October of 2017, the last revision to this policy came in, which suspended processing and admission of refugees from North Korea, South Sudan, and Egypt, Iran, Libya, Mali, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. So it went through numerous iterations during the Trump presidency. And all of this might kind of escape your memory because when Joe Biden came in to office on January 20th, 2021, he issued a proclamation revoking all of those travel bans and the bits and pieces that were still in effect from kind of the earliest executive orders to the latest ones. So that was the first travel ban, and it made quite a stir. Now we get its spiritual successor. So usually what I like to do for a lot of these, because this came in the order of a proclamation, usually I'll go through a little bit, but this is such a long proclamation that I'm just going to summarize the key points for us instead of kind of quoting directly from it. The first part of the proclamation gives us our purpose, right? And the idea behind it is it's going to protect US national security by restricting entries from countries with what they call inadequate vetting procedures and high visa overstay rates or terrorism risks. So, overstay is the term for when you're on a visa, can be a tourist visa, a work visa, whatever, and that runs out. And instead of either removing yourself from the country or renewing your visa, you just kind of hang around. And Trump recently got a Homeland Security report about overstays, and a lot of the countries with high overstay rates ended up on this list. So that's kind of how that all shakes out. So there are 12 countries that are fully suspended from entry. So if you're trying to get to the States from one of these countries, too bad. And those are Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. So as we can see, there's some repeats from the first go around of the travel ban, but we have some new contenders as well in here. Now, there's also partial entry suspension. So this is another 7 countries on the list where there are restrictions in place, but there are also some allowances. Usually it's on visa types, right? There's a ton of different types of visas you can get to enter the United States, and some of these are now restricted for the following countries: Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Now, there are exceptions, of course. If you're already a permanent resident of the United States, you're okay. Dual nationals traveling on their non restricted passports are okay. So if you have 2 or more passports, choose one of the ones that isn't restricted if you're coming to the United States, as well as allowances for diplomats, athletes, certain kind of family and refugee visas, and case by case national interest waivers almost. So, what reasons are the administration giving for this ban? Well, there's a few. The first is terrorism risks. And this, of course, is a long-standing thing with the Trump administration, dating back to the first travel ban, and it rears its head again here. Is the idea that these countries are more prone to sending over terrorists, maybe, but it's one that is a little spurious, but still is an easy justification for the administration. The second is lack of government cooperation. This is more on documents and record keeping, really, than anything else. The idea is that the governments of these countries can't furnish the United States with enough information about people coming over to make educated decisions about the safety of those people. So, part of this ban is trying to put pressure on those governments to improve their documentation and record keeping, and so that they may provide better information to the United States. High overstay rates. So we hit on the overstay report a little bit earlier. This is that same thing, that Homeland Security report. People overstaying their visas. Some of these countries have the higher rates of that happening, and so that's how they find themselves on this list. And finally, failure to accept deported nationals. Deportation is a two-way street if you're trying to send someone back to their country of origin. Sometimes those countries of origin say, yeah, no, we don't want them back either. So that makes things a lot more complicated and ultimately kind of more expensive as well for the United States. So some of these reasons are a little bit more reasonable, I think, than others. But on the whole, these aren't just completely fabricated reasons. Now, these restrictions are going to be reassessed every 180 days, and the proclamation does say that countries can improve their protocols and policies, and if they do, the bans will be lifted. This came into effect June 9th of this year. So, in total, we have 19 nations that are affected by this new travel ban. It's really a continuation of the policies from the first Trump administration, but it does seem to leave in some wiggle room for adjustments based on kind of improved cooperation between the United States and these countries. Now, people who are kind of going through the visa process have been left in a sort of limbo where they're not sure what's going on. And there's been a cable sent to all US diplomatic missions to say that no action should be taken for issued visas which have already left the consular section. So if the visa's in the mail, if it's being sent out, or it's already been sent out, it is what it is. Those people are fine. If it hasn't, however, those visas that you were working on at at the missions, at the consulars, those are now revoked. So there was really a kind of a drop dead date as far as if it's in the mail, you're okay. If it's not, you're not getting in, which is, I'm sure, just heartbreaking for a lot of people who were going to travel for work or school or for any number of reasons why you might come to the United States. And especially if you've already been approved, that's got to hurt. And I'm sure it's left a lot of people in the lurch. So who is exempt from this? Well, there's quite a large list here, but it includes green card holders are exempt, dual citizens, including U.S. citizens who also have citizenship from one of the banned countries. That makes perfect sense. Some athletes uh, and coaches that are traveling to the U.S. for World Cup or other sporting events on a case-by-case basis. Afghans who worked for the U.S. government or its allies in Afghanistan and have the special immigrant visas are still okay to come. Iranians belonging to an ethnic or religious minority can still apply for refugee status. People who were granted asylum or admitted to the U.S. as refugees before the ban took effect. And people with U.S. family members who apply for visas in connection to spouses, children, or parents. Diplomats, of course. Representatives of international organizations. Children adopted by U.S. citizens. And people who already have valid visas. So that's kind of the basic list of who is not affected by this, who is exempt. So where does this leave us? Well, broadly speaking, we've seen this policy before in Trump's first term. This one doesn't fall too far from the tree. It might be slightly less extreme because there is more wiggle room brought into this than there ever was, I believe, in the first travel ban. And we should expect litigation around this. The first travel ban, of course, was struck down in court, which is why Trump had to make a second one and then revise that one. And this one might go through a similar process. But we know from last time that even if they're defeated in court, the administration can still make a few little changes around the outsides, reassert that travel ban, and it'll probably stick, at least until this administration is no longer in power. There's also room for expansion or condensing of the list of countries affected. We saw this again in the first travel ban, where certain countries got dropped, certain countries got added. But there's an interesting backdrop here of Trump's trade war with everybody. And that is the idea of this travel ban as a form of leverage, which we could see. I think there's a definite possibility that Trump tries to use this in negotiation with these countries. None of these countries, though, are major economies. in the same way that you might find like a European country or a country in East Asia type of thing, right? They're not heavy-hitting economies, but that might mean that Trump has even more leverage over a smaller economy than a larger one, and so can make more demands because of this. So we should keep an eye out for that as well. I think on the whole, it's not surprising to see the travel ban come back. This is very consistent with the types of policies that Trump likes, that his administration has always favored. And even though it's 19 countries, still plays to the isolationism that permeates this administration and this era of Republican politics, of Trumpian politics. So when you're looking at this one in the news, keep in mind the possibility that this is negotiation fodder for Trump, and keep in mind that this list can grow and shrink, and if you're someone who is foreign to the United States and you're thinking about visiting or you have to visit for one reason or another, just keep this in mind like you keep in mind the enhanced border security and everything that's gone on with that. The United States is getting much less friendly to enter, and it's important that everyone just take some time, make sure that if you have to visit, that you have crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's and deleted a bunch of apps from your phone. I think that's gonna about do it for this one. Check out our next full episode on Monday, and we'll see you next time on the Politics of New America. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on your podcast platform of choice, and tell all your friends. The Politics of New America is hosted by Nathan Stone and produced by Josh Carmody. You can follow us on Blue Sky at Politics New America.